Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing Canvas and Canvas Reflections. And I actually did semi-review Canvas once before on the channel. I did a playthrough and review with my wife where we played the game, we talked about our thoughts, and this is not only me covering Canvas Reflections and some of the modules they have, but also the fact that I specifically and intentionally did want to re-review this game because my opinion has gone up significantly since first diving into it. Canvas, and we'll go ahead and go through how to play and all that stuff, and I'll jump into all my opinions of the base game, the expansion, whether the expansion is worth it, the various modules that come with it, all that stuff. But basically, Canvas is a game of trying to construct your perfect canvas. Simple enough. You're trying to construct a canvas. You're going to more specifically be constructing 3 canvases across the game in which you're trying to slowly gather cards from this board over here in order to slot them into your canvas in such a way that you will get as many points as possible by layering your cards. What you want to do is you want to look at these goals over here and try to decide what you're trying to go for. So for example, this card is a great one for matching Tint. Tint over here wants to have those 2 symbols plus 1 rainbow. If I can go ahead and get another rainbow into my display, for instance, let's say I get Hungry over here. Hungry, when I lock it into my display, I can go ahead and layer it over the other card, and now I have Hungry Release. I have my backdrop card, I have my layering cards over, and I have these various symbols that are important, but because I have 1 of this, which is going to help me for emphasis, I have 2 of this and this for tint, I don't have the 4 matching over there, that's not going to help me, but if I can get 1 more card, because if I can get that single little rainbow plus a non-adjacent triangle, well, that will be everything. So what I do want over here is I want to get a triangle, and the question is, how can I do so? And honestly, by getting freedom, I can go ahead and do so. Because if I slot freedom into my card over here, what's going to happen is freedom would actually be hidden. Let's go ahead and slot this in properly. Freedom would cover or hide something else on the table, which kind of ruins the effect over there. Although it still works because I can actually go ahead and still have 2 over here, 1 over here, 1 non-adjacent, so I still got what I wanted. But there's even another way to get that, because of what Canvas Reflection does. Canvas Reflection adds cards that you can rotate and flip. Now this one is not one of those cards. You can see that because there's no icons that let you flip it. It's back, the reverse is going to be totally different. But on the front side over here, both of these do flip, which means I could flip these like so, changing the images there, and getting all those symbols onto the board in another way, so that I have my 3 cards, my backdrop, all layered nicely, giving me the art that I want, and scoring for 3 of those cards. That's what you're trying to do. How do you actually do that? Well, your turn in Canvas is simple. You take one of the cards from these rows, and this is integrating Canvas Reflections. I'll talk about what changes there are and are not, but basically you're going to take one of these cards on the row. Let's slide these cards slowly down, grabbing new cards as we go. You're going to take a card, and you're going to, well, take from the left columns over here, grabbing one of those cards. If you want a card further deep, you'll have to go ahead and give up some of these inspiration tokens to get whatever card you want. If I want those airplanes over here, I have to go 1, 2, and then take this card. On future turns, when somebody goes ahead and takes one of these cards over here, what they're going to do is they're going to take, if somebody takes this card over here, let me stock these back in, they're falling all over the place, but if somebody takes one of these cards, they'll get that inspiration token, which they can then use as their own currency. So it's a constant give and take of trying to give up tokens to get the perfect card for you, but then also making sure you have a supply of tokens coming back so that you can afford to spend them again when it's time to get that perfect card. Alternatively, on your turn, you're going to construct a canvas. Now that's a mandatory action if you have 5 painting cards that you haven't used yet. So you're going to do is you're going to mandatorily construct a canvas once you have 5 painting cards. Alternatively, you can do it whenever you want at your leisure before you have 5 painting cards. And when you construct a canvas, you're going to take your background, you're going to take those 3 cards, you're going to layer them all in, you're going to say, here's my work of art. You're going to measure up that work of art against the 4 scoring cards, of which we have a nice giant pile from both the base game and the expansion, all mixed in there, all of them giving you different criteria, and the combination of those criteria is going to be a big factor in it. And then you're going to grab the specific medals that work for you. So I grab these 3 medals for this card. I have these. Great, I'm good to go. Except, across the course of the game, you're scoring a total of 3 canvases, and trying to get those medals is a big part of that because you'll see each card tells you how many points you get depending on how many medals you have of that color. For each purple medal I have, I'll either get 4, 9, or 16 points for 1, 2, or 3 respectively. Over here, getting this emphasis over here, 1 point for 1, but 11 points for 3, meaning if I can really focus, if I can show the art world that I am very good at this particular trait or feature, then I'll be renowned for it and get medals for it and score points for it. So you do, to a large extent, in almost all of these cards, there are some exceptions, but for the most part, you want to heavily focus focus in on being good at certain things, repeating those things as a measure across your canvases, scoring those medals again and again and again, although we didn't talk about the silver and gold medals. Silver is going to be from the base game, gold medals are going to be from the Reflections expansion, but those are going to give you different ways of scoring additional points. So for instance, this gold medal over here, if I layered this gold medal, let's see if I can grab this one, let's grab this gold medal card. If I had this gold medal card onto my board over here, this gold medal gives me a gold medal for every one of those sun symbols to the left or to the right. Silver do a similar thing, but they give you 2 points per medal instead of 3, but they reward you for all of the ones you have, whether to the left, the right, or the rest of the card. So they're going to have your own individual scoring metrics on some of these cards that reward you or give you medals for specific conditions depending on how else you fleshed out that card, and you'll get gold or silver medals that will score 2 and 3 points respectively, and that's basically Canvas. Rinse and repeat until you've gathered enough cards, constructed 3 canvases. All players have done so. Weigh up your points across the other players, and, well, someone's going to win the game. That's basically the game. Now, the Reflections expansion adds a few things. The first thing it adds is it adds this new board over here. Instead of the original canvas mat you have from the base game, you have this board here, which is both better for general layout of all the stuff, but additionally, it gives you 2 rows instead of 1, giving you a little bit more flexibility. Could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on whether you like that additional tightness the original game provided. I would say I overall like the new board, while not particularly caring for or against the new setup of cards. I was fine with it before, I'm fine with it now. Reflections is also going to add these gold medals over here that are a little bit more high scoring, but a little bit more precise in terms of what they want in order for you to achieve that. Reflections, and this is hence the name Reflections, is also going to add cards that reflect. Cards that you can adjust to the other side, and they give you slightly different art using the same elements on the canvas, and very conveniently it also shows you how those reflect. This one over here is going to reflect to purple on the other side, is still giving me the same symbol. That's going to be true as well. So you never actually have to know what's on the other side. One of the things I was worried about when I first heard about this expansion is the degree of looking at the board and having to flip cards to see what's there. They actually do a great job of making sure you always see exactly what's on the other side, so you can, you do have to mentally process it a bit and get used to playing, but once you do so, it gives you these extra cards, which gives you extra flexibility, another way to look at the game, another slight puzzle as far as how to construct your cards. Then from there, we also have, and then we have the Masterpiece over here. This is going to be an extra thing it gives you where you can award the Masterpiece at the end of the game. Best in Show goes to the player who scored the most points, and otherwise known as the person who won the game, and Masterpiece is given to the player who manages to show the canvas that they think is the best work of art, explaining it or not, but just in some way, you have the best canvas, here you go. I don't love this, honestly, but I think that depends on who you are. One of the problems with Canvas has always been the idea that some players are trying to build a beautiful work of art, which is not how the game rewards you, and other players, like myself, are purely focusing on the mechanics of the game, completely ignoring whether you made something nice, beautiful, horrid, whatever it is you want. And so I think Masterpiece was their way of integrating those people who are playing it from a more thematic approach. They can get something at the end. I'm not playing it that way, so this doesn't mean much to me personally, but I guess it's nice for those who want that little element to it. And to be fair, one of the nice things about Canvas is the fact that it's that accessible, that it's kind of, you can just dive into it and start playing without even knowing or caring how it plays, but playing it purely thematically, if that's what you're going for. It's not how you score points, but now it is how you can score the Masterpiece. Then we have 2 little modules over here. We have the Signature Style variant. The Signature Style variant is going to give you, every player is going to get their own signature style that's going to award you points for having different things in their canvas. I like this one with the caveat. This basically says, like, hey, you get 2 points per wood object in your canvas. Now, so if I sit there and say, hey, that's wood over there, that's a little tree over there, well, then I can go ahead and get extra 2 points. So it gives me another thing to be mindful of while integrating the thematic aspect in a way that matters more. So that way I actually like it, because it integrates the art of the cards in a way that gives you points and plays to the thematic aspect. The reason I'm a little bit mixed on this one is because of the fact that, does Unreachable count as wood? If I scroll down over here, yep, it does say Unreachable counts, meaning the problem is you can interpret certain things certain ways. Animals are a little bit more obvious. An animal's an animal. But what about this over here? These are flying clocks. Is a flying clock an animal? I mean, I don't imagine it is, but let's go ahead and find out. We have, nope, flying clocks is not listed. So on the plus side, most things you can make an educated judgment call about what's included or not included in one of these categories. And on the plus side, they have all the cards listed for if you actually go ahead and, want to find out for sure if that's listed. I don't know why I said flying clocks. The card's called Age. Age is not listed. On the downside, you have to actually look and reference that. And also, as expansions come out, if more expansions come out, that will be slightly annoying to deal with. So I like this with that small caveat. caveat that it's a drop annoying, but it otherwise does the job. Then we have the award card variant, which can be played in two different ways. The award card variant gives you these award cards that you're going to place out at the beginning of the game, giving you an award to players, 3 points for whoever gets the canvas award for the most little rainbow stuff across all 3 paintings. And you can play it with the friendly or non-friendly mode, in terms of you can get 4 points for 6 or more, meaning all players can get this if they have 6 or more across all 3 paintings, or you can play it the competitive way in terms of having some one player gets it for having the most, or tiebreakers, or whatever it is. So there's a few ways to play that, but both the signature style and the award just give you more things to be mindful of and consider, which I like in the game, because that's the fun little puzzle that Canvas is, which is a good time to move into review category, which, again, I've reviewed this already in the past, but let's talk about all the individual things, the sum of its parts, the individual expansions, the variants, all that stuff. So, Canvas is an excellent game. Canvas has grown on me tremendously since I first started playing it, and to be clear, I always enjoyed it. This is a game that when I first saw it on Kickstarter back in the day, I kind of wrote it off as being a little too light, a little bit appealing to other people, not myself. Not a bad thing, just not a game that I'd be the target audience for. But then when I eventually did have a chance to sit down and play it, I really enjoyed it. I thought the way you combine different aspects in terms of trying to be mindful of different scoring mechanisms and trying to get as much out of them as possible gave you a really solid puzzle. But the reason it continuously improved for me was not just that, but the fact that, first of all, I am never opposed to playing this game. I am always down to play a game of Canvas. It is easy to dive into. It plays well at anywhere from 2 to 5 players. 5 does stretch out a little longer, but it does play well at a variety of player counts. It handles all sorts of people. It handles anything from fairly hardcore gamers who are looking for a lighter game to dive into, from people who genuinely have never played a designer game before. They've only exposure to games that have been apples to apples and Monopoly or whatever it is. I've had people sit down and play Canvas and enjoy it. Some of them do so with an understanding of the general rules at play, while may or may not fully engaging in the strategy. Others do it while trying to engage in the strategy, and others do it while literally trying to build out a pretty picture. Their points don't matter, they don't care, they're there to have fun, and they have fun. Canvas has such a wide breadth of accessibility that I have continuously dove into it. I continuously enjoy it because of the variability of the scoring patterns at play, and it's always fun. And even though I don't actually care about the specific artwork I build, and even though I give it zero thought while I am constructing my art, there is something nice at looking at it after and saying that this particular card is called Releasing Death. Releasing Death, we have a gate, we have a skull, we have a fountain. It wasn't my intent to actually construct that in any way, shape, or form. It just happened, but it is fun to look at what you constructed. And then you combine that with the signature style variant, and suddenly the game changes. Releasing Death is a different conversation if I get rewarded for having cards with metal in them. Suddenly, Releasing Death is that much more thematically integrated, and maybe I would have even changed it. Maybe I would have grabbed the Juvenile card instead, and it would have been Juvenile Death? Which is a little bit morbid when you think about it, but there's a whole bunch of fun things going on here in the original base game of Canvas that I consistently have played it, consistently have enjoyed it. It's gone up for me. My initial rating of Canvas was a 3 out of 5. This has easily gone up to a 4 out of 5 for me. The gameplay still is on the lighter side. Understand that going in, it's still a little bit on the lighter side. If you played games like Cascadia or Calico, take it a bit of a notch back in terms of the depth, and that's what you have with Canvas. But Canvas is possibly the most accessible game in terms of if you compose the matrix of accessibility to everyone versus how much I personally enjoy it. Canvas is very high on the culmination of those two aspects combined, which is why I particularly enjoy it. As far as Canvas Reflections, I like Canvas Reflections. I do. And this is not, hopefully, one of those times where I change my opinion a year from now and I'm coming back telling you how amazing it is. I like Canvas Reflections while also feeling that it doubles the price of the game, and I don't know if it doubles the experience. I like this expansion, or this expansion. I like this expansion. I recommend this expansion. I'm happy that I own the expansion, but I recommend it with the caveat that, in my opinion, it slightly improves the experience while doubling the cost of the game. So when you go ahead and get Canvas Reflections, if you want that central board, if you want that more variability in cards, if you want those gold ribbons, that's a fun little twist over there, if you want those cards that twist around, those are all nice things to have. There's not a single aspect of that I don't like. The closest thing I have to not liking is I'm neutral on the change of the board setup. I'm neutral. I'm not for or against it. I understand why they did it, I just don't particularly care either way. So, I'm not against the expansion. I like it. I just like it with the caveat that it doubles the price of the game, and you have to decide if you care enough about Canvas to do that. I do. Like I said, Canvas has grown for me. The extra variability, the extra stuff is all completely worth it to me for a game that gets as much play in my collection as Canvas does. As far as the modules, the awards cards, the word card variant, I won't play without that. I mean, that's not true. When I'm playing with new players, I won't bother. But in general, I won't play without that. I like the award cards. It's a nice, simple, extra thing to be mindful of with a very low rules overhead. It's fun to dive into. The signature style variant does have that bit of a trade-off. I still like playing with it. I like that aspect of having, for me, this masterpiece doesn't really do much for me, but the signature style variant does. The signature style variant has this aspect where suddenly I care about the art. Suddenly I care about the picture in a way that I never did until now, or until at least until the card was done. And so I like how that does that to my perception of integrating the art more in the game in a way that wasn't previously done so until now for me, based on the way I play. But again, it comes at the trade-off of the fact that you sometimes have that question of, well, is Tranquil Age, these combinations of cards, what are they? Do they count? Do they not? So there's that little trade-off, but I still like it, and still generally will play with that expansion with people who already know how to play Canvas and enjoy the game. And that's basically it. A game, an expansion, a few modules. All in all, I can't recommend Canvas enough. I shouldn't pause that heavily, because if you pause that heavily, it sounds like I said I can't recommend Canvas. I can't recommend Canvas enough. I think Canvas is great. I think it's great for the accessibility aspect as the forefront of why I think it's so good, while being engaging to most people who played it. The caveat I will give, when I say I can't recommend it enough, the little small caveat, is I have played it with some people who are heavier gamers who have not enjoyed it the same way I do. While this is not my go-to game in terms of other things, like for instance, going back to Calico that I mentioned earlier, or Cascadia more specifically, I would rather play Cascadia any day of the week. I think Cascadia is a better game in terms of the crunchiness it gives me. But Canvas is easier to table, and that counts for a lot. It has become one of my go-to gateway games for people who are here, they want to play something, they see my basement full of all the walls of games, and they ask, what do you recommend? And Canvas is now one of the games that I pull off the shelf. As far as other game recommendations, I'm going to go with Cascadia. Cascadia is a great game recommendation that will heavily give you that accessibility, that point scoring mechanism aspect that gives you that same fun. And then Calico as well. Calico is a little bit more brutal, a little bit more mean, but still very rewarding. And all these games give you that juggling of points while doing something that is just building something for fun, that is building something that's enjoyable, it's giving you a immersive aspect to what you're doing, while also a mechanical point-based aspect to what you're doing at the same time. I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this video helpful, and as always, have a good one.